Once the terrain has been well checked and you've made sure that your driving position is comfortable and your seat belt correctly adjusted and secure, you are ready for your attempt at the gradient. Before you start off, however, remember it's always better to attack your quarry in a straight line. Trying to cross any gradient at an angle before expertise has been gained can be extremely dangerous. So you've checked everything. Now position the vehicle a sufficient distance from the slope to allow a build-up of speed. That is not to say high speed, but enough momentum to assist the vehicle up the slope. With practice, you will soon be able to judge the correct speed to approach any gradient you come across. Charging full speed up the gradient is also bad practice. When you get to the other side, you may very well have a very unpleasant surprise awaiting you. If by any chance you should not make it to the top of the gradient through lack of speed or traction, then stop. Apply the handbrake, select reverse, put the transfer box into low ratio, and back down the slope in a straight line, making sure that the front wheels are kept straight, slowly letting the engine power do the braking for you. Do not make any sudden braking, as it's very important to keep the wheels turning. Coming down a gradient is just as difficult a maneuver as going up. In fact, sometimes control can be more difficult. Again, on first attempts, the downward slope should be checked at the same time as the upward slope. Again, looking out for potholes, boulders and logs, etc. Never let the vehicle freewheel down a slope. Select low ratio and gently descend, letting the engine do most of the braking. Remember, the four-wheel drive can only give braking and traction when the clutch is fully engaged. Use of the foot brake and clutch should be avoided if at all possible, as loss of traction and braking on loose or slippery surfaces could cause the vehicle to skid or veer to one side, thereby putting the vehicle in an unstable position. However, once you've succeeded, we guarantee you'll want to do it again. Sand and water. Whenever sand or other soft terrain is to be approached, it's advisable to lower the tire pressure slightly. This will spread the contact of the tire surface and therefore cover more surface area, giving a lower ground pressure, which will produce better traction and will decrease the tendency to sink in the soft ground. When the soft terrain driving has been completed, the tire pressures should be taken back to standard. Although the Suzuki electrics and air intakes are positioned high up under the bonnet and are very well waterproofed, the engine is not designed to run immersed in water. However, it will drive easily through water up to a depth level with the bottom of the doors. Water should always be approached with great caution, as one can never tell the total depth or whether there are any obstacles hidden under the surface. Common sense in measuring the depth of the water with a suitable yardstick or branch from a nearby tree is always good practice. Once the depth has been gauged, the water can be approached slowly and with caution. The driver should keep checking the depth of the water at the front wheels as he drives in, being prepared to reverse and take an alternative course if necessary. When leaving any water, it is imperative that the brakes be checked immediately and their effectiveness assessed. The quickest and most efficient way to dry them out is to apply slight pressure whilst driving around, and until they are totally dry, extra caution should be exercised. Driving fast through water may look very spectacular, but tends to force the water into places in the engine which could cause ignition problems, and therefore should be avoided. In muddy conditions, your Suzuki really comes into its own because of its superb power-to-weight ratio. When driving through deep mud, select four-wheel drive low ratio. Drive in a direct and straight line, avoiding any ruts and obstacles seen on the surface. But remember, any severe alteration in the angle of the front wheels adds drag, and therefore more energy is required to drive the vehicle on. On leaving muddy terrain, brakes and lights should be checked. If the vehicle has been driven in deep mud for a long time, then the vehicle should be washed down as soon as possible, clearing the brakes, prop shafts and under the wings of any mud which may be stuck to them, as this could affect the efficiency of the vehicle. Driving in a gully can be the most deceiving and potentially dangerous of any of the off-road conditions. Many obstacles are faced when driving up or down a gully. The side walls of the V of the gully can vary in extremes, and the wheels can be snatched by the rutted soft terrain or by any boulders. Any of these objects, rocks, soft earth washout, tree roots and loose shingle, can cause the vehicle to be trapped on the gully wall or even rolled over. With all off-road driving, caution and observation must be your keynotes for safety and enjoyment. Even when you feel you have gained experience, don't attempt to drive too fast. There is safety and more control in taking it steady. But please remember to try and go in 2 or more vehicles and take the items suggested earlier in the program. There is safety in numbers, and it saves the embarrassment of having to ask the local farmer for assistance if you're in trouble. If you follow the basic techniques covered within this program, many hours of pleasure for yourself and family will be yours for the asking. Suzuki, total mobility, enabling you to get to places that other people could only envy.